If you like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight I'm talking to Ash Winter. Now, Ash joined the QRH in 2001, and he's going to tell us about his time in the Army and what he's done since. Hi, Ash, how are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, thanks very much for having me on. It's really, really nice to be here.
Like I said to everyone, as I said before when we started, it's basically I've got to thank you, because if I didn't get people like yourself coming on, I'd look a bit weird sat talking to myself, which wouldn't be the first time. So it's just the same 5 questions for you as I ask everybody else. So it's, where did you grow up? Why did you join the military? What was it like? Why did you leave? And what have you done since? So if you just want to start us off with where you grew up and why you joined the military.
Yeah, so I grew up in Cannock, Staffordshire, and you can tell by the accent there's a bit of a Brummie twang. So I'm very proud to say I'm the only member of my family to be born in Birmingham. The rest of them are Staffordshire, northeast of England, Belgium, USA, and many, many other places. So you can imagine family parties were pretty decent. But yeah, my dad was in the military.
Right.
He was 2-para, and his best friend lived in Cannock. And one weekend he didn't want to go back to Northeast, so decided to go with his best mate to Cannock. And his best mate's sister now turns out to be my mother. So in true squaddy fashion, here we are. So grew up in Cannock, Staffordshire. Very good, normal upbringing. Had everything we wanted to have. Rode little motorbikes. Went to various car rallies, camping every weekend, climbing mountains, and pretty active, I would say. Yeah. And I think that's really carried on now. At the time, you don't like it, do you? As a child, you think, oh, do we have to go up Snowdon? Why do we have to go up to Snowdon? Can we not? I don't know. What was the equivalent of phones then? I suppose what Nintendo or PlayStation 1 it would have been, wouldn't it?
But, bloody hell, you're showing your age now.
Yeah.
In my days, it was a stick with a wheel that you rolled down the street like.
Good times, yeah. Not glued to a screen.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it's a different world now, isn't it? So you can't really, we all do it now. We're all guilty of it. Whether the citizens do it or not, we're all guilty of it.
This podcast is living proof of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, turn it off now. We're off. Go outside, kids, and have fun.
Yeah. I do remember one time, actually, we went up Snowdon, and it sticks in my memory. I just hope it's true. It's a memory of mine that I'm sure it's true. Once my dad left the regular force, he joined the TA, as was, and he knew everybody. So whenever we went anywhere, there was always somebody that he knew, and of course we go all the way up top of Snowdon. He said, "Oh, hello, mate," and there he was, one of my dad's mates from the TA. And, living in Staffordshire, it was a good couple of hours away from Snowdon. It's not as if it's just round the corner. So yeah, it just sticks there all the time. And every time we go walking or anything, I say, "Yeah, remember that time, Dad? We went all the way up there and saw it." It's remarkable, really. It's a small world.
Yeah, it is. But it happens. So, what made you join up then? Was it just because your dad was in the military? Or?
Well, I think if you ask anyone in my family, I think they'd probably say they didn't expect me to join. Right. Whereas I think I was always destined to join. So whenever we were children, and there was a lot of us at sort of cousins, and we used to go at a place called Cannock Chase, which was basically a huge forest.
Yeah, I know.
And it was right next to where we lived. So whenever there was a family party, my grandparents lived opposite us. So the whole family would get together, and we would go and play armies. We didn't go and play Navy. We didn't go and play Royal Air Force. We went to play Army. And we had everything that you could think of that the cadet force would have, I suppose, apart from a weapon system. But of course, you've got sticks for guns, haven't you? But, we'd have all the official gear. We'd even have the berries with the cap badges on. And, of course, I'd put my dad's one on. And don't think he liked it, but I still did. Off we'd go. We'd split ourselves into 2 teams, and we'd go in assault positions, and we'd do various exercises in the woods. And there's one particular night I remember. It was bonfire night, and there was a huge bonfire nearby. The amount of fireworks that were going off was unbelievable. And there we were, playing soldiers in the woods with all these fireworks going off. It was absolutely brilliant. The best childhood anybody could ever have.
Yeah,
what more could you want?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably what sort of pushed me into the military. Really, there's a lot of my family are in the military.
Yeah,
both granddads obviously were in that sort of era. A couple of uncles, TAM regular, cousins, my brother, dad, and to me, like I say, I thought I was always destined to join. But I think, certainly my parents would think, probably at that time they didn't think I was strong enough to join. I was the type of person at school that would run home from school because somebody had called me a name, and it seemed to happen quite regularly, to be honest. I think it was probably every lunchtime that I'd run home, and my mum would grab me, put me in the car, take me back to school, and kick me up the backside. And to join the military, and of course, the way the sense of humour is, it's part of life, isn't it?
It is, but it's very different to school.
Yes, yeah. I certainly matured a lot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, did you know what to expect?
Not really.
No.
Not really. Just from the conversations with family members, I suppose. But I was never in the cadets. I went to Scouts once and didn't like it. And I was always a home bird. Really, I was always wanted to be at home. Although going away on holidays was what I enjoyed to do. I'd go on holiday for a year, whereas my brother, on the other hand, he wanted to come home after a couple of days.
Yeah,
and he ended up joining the military as well. So it must always have been in our veins, really, that it was going to happen.
DNA.
Yeah.
So what made you pick the QRH then? or was it picked for you?
Yeah, there's a story. That goes. I ended up working in a recruiting office as well, so it went full circle. I obviously wanted to do what my dad did and jump out of planes and be in the parachute regiment. Off I went to the careers office, sat down in front of what's now a good mate, and he said, "Oh, you don't want to do that? What do you want to join them for?" He said, "What hobbies and interests have you got?" And I love that phrase because I used to say the same thing.
Yeah.
What hobbies and interests have you got? Oh, well, I love driving my car, and I'm a massive car nut. I just love cars, love racing, rallying, and speed, really. He says, "Oh, I've got the perfect job for you. What about driving a tank?" And he put the video on, and there I was, in absolute awe of this machine and thinking, yeah, I'd quite fancy that. Lo and behold, it was Booth Wright from the Queen's Royal Hussars, and that's what I joined.
So where did you go to training for that?
Down in Winchester, ATO Winchester, 2001.
And what was that like turning up for that? The shock to the system.
Do you know, the first thing I remember was there's a guy who was joined the same regiment, and we sat down in a room. Obviously just met each other, sit there thinking, what the hell am I doing here? And he'd been back trooped, so he'd been in for a good couple of weeks before us. And he started singing "Stuck Inside These Four Walls," which was it a Beatles song? I think it was.
I'm not aware of it.
And
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, he just started singing it, and everyone just looked at him and thought, "What are you doing?" He obviously been there a few weeks before us. He was just playing a game. It was, looking back, it's hilarious. But at the time, just mortifying. You think, no, it's like prison.
I mean, with me, it was the thing that hit me initially was, I was going to say weirdly, but at the time it was quite weird. It was all the different accents. I grew up in the northeast in Hartlepool, and I hadn't really been outside of Hartlepool at all. I think
Yeah.
the furthest south I'd ever been was like Middlesbrough, type of thing. Which was what 10-minute bus journey on the Norfolk Broads as a kid. But it was all the accents.
Yeah.
People from Scotland, I hadn't got a fucking clue what they were saying, even though they talk a little bit like me. And anyone down south just sounded French. It
Well,
was
I
just,
think that's where
it was just
the
weird.
difference was that we travelled a lot.
Yeah.
And like I say, I've got family in the northeast of England. We've got family down south. We've got family abroad, and the accents we've got within the family was quite vast. Probably more accents in our family than there were in my basic training, to be honest. So yeah, that didn't faze me at all. I think the biggest thing was probably the fitness, I would say.
Yeah,
I've
I always
never,
struggle with that, mate.
yeah, I've never, even looking back at school, my brother was always the sporty one, if you like. I like to think I was sporty, but he was always the one in the football team, and I was the one that was in goal.
Yeah.
Which, of course, you're not the sporty one if you're in goal. Although I grew to like that position and played there many times, so I'd like to think I'm okay at it, maybe. So yeah, the fitness was a big thing, but I scraped by, and I managed to pass all the tests that needed to be done. So there's something to be said about that.
So how did you get on with the discipline side of it then?
It didn't faze me, the discipline side. I quite enjoy it, and even yes, it's ingrained in me now, but I live by those rules now, as we probably all do. But discipline during training for me was part of the excitement and the experience of it. There's always been that discipline at home that your room had to be tidy, you'd have to take plates away, all the basic stuff that you have to do. And whenever we'd go camping, we'd always help on putting the tents up, making fires and barbecues and everything else. So you do all your chores, and to me that was the sort of foundations for it, really, I think.
I mean, that's good, but you do get a lot of guys who join the military who have no clue.
Yes.
Literally, they've got to be taught how to fucking brush their teeth, wipe their ass. And that might sound an exaggeration, but it's not.
No, it's not. It's not.
Not everyone's got that good life, or even a semi-good life. Some people have it. They join the military to get away from what they were going through. I think what's the term? Social mobility. There is that aspect, and the military is one of the best things going. The social mobility, it really is. Whether they've been in 3 years, 9 years, if they've done the whole 20 odd years, whatever rank they get out at. But there is that. You're joining a family, but some of the guys, even when I was, I joined in '85, and some of the guys there, me probably being one of them, hadn't got a clue about, like, we'll put it this way, for example, they showed us in training how to wipe your ass, right, with a piece of, you remember the old 4-man, 10-man ration packs, that fucking toilet paper was in there. Literally, it was just fucking grease-proof paper. It didn't wipe, it just spread. Basically, wipe your ass with that, and then he folded it over and wipe your ass and fold it over. And you can do it, just don't get your finger through it. And we were like, there's a bloke stood in front of us, wiping his ass. And I mean, his kicks around his ankles. He was physically wiping his ass, which was a shock to the system.
I bet it was. I bet things had moved on when I joined, I must say.
B days. No, but it was like showing how to shave, literally lined up. And there was, Christ, I'm 56, so I only just started shaving now. I didn't need to shave at 16. But there was guys there who nearly had full-grown beards. I think they lied about their age. I don't know.
But there's a few stories to that, isn't there?
Yeah. There's but it was literally everyone's got to be on a level playing field, so that you've all got to start off on the same foot.
Yeah.
But the people there who just through no fault of their own.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think that's where others found it really frustrating. For the personal hygiene side of it, for the lessons that obviously I'd done that at home. for a good example, I used to do cadet instructing whilst I was working in the recruiting office. And you'd get cadets that were well drilled at pretty much everything, and they would make a perfect foundation for a soldier. However, they could be a little bit cocky with it. And if they were to go to basic training, they can do weapon handling, they can do drill, they've got personal hygiene, they can iron their kit, they shave, they know the rank structure and everything else. And we always used to advise to keep that on the down low and not go in all guns blazing, because you've got one end of the scale you just mentioned, and then the other end of the scale there that, I mean, it could just be horrendous either side. So I'd like to think I was somewhere in the middle. Obviously no military skills, but maybe a little bit of life experience of the basics, if you like. And that was probably because we had military experience within the family.
Yeah, it rubs us. It's by like osmosis, isn't it? So you kind of suck it in, kind of thing. So, what was your training like in the end then? So, there was any no injuries or anything like that while you were in training? Or?
Do you know, I was trying to think about training in a bit more detail before we did this, and I remember having an injury before the CFT, and it was an ankle injury, and it's quite apparent that this has come up really. But it obviously wasn't too bad because I managed to pass out of training. And I've had ankle issues ever since. Now, whether it's connected or not, I don't know. I got called the glass ankles for various things that have gone on since. And, maybe it was a case of I had weak ankles before and I managed to get through somehow. Whereas,
or it's never healed properly.
Well, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? And it's something I hadn't really put two and two together. But yeah, the injury then, because I remember that CFT being very touch and go of getting through it, and it was a CFT that wasn't a squaded march; it was individual best effort. They were apparently trialing during our training. They trialled a couple of things, that and the astronaut type ration packs, what they call them, freeze dried, I think it was, wasn't it? Of course, then you use your water to mix it in like a mug shot or something. Then you've got no water for your brew or anything, which is obviously the benefit of the ball in the bags. But yeah, a couple of things there that were trialled that I don't think they stuck. But personally, I quite like doing the individual CFT, just having your own thoughts. And that screaming man in the back of your mind, don't be last, because that sticks with you since day one, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. I don't know, I was normally last.
I was never actual last.
Behind me, they were fucked. So what was it like getting to phase 2 then? So getting to go onto the tanks and see the actual beat for the first time.
That was a dream, wasn't it? The dream that was sold to me, thinking I was going to go and join the Powers, and there I was, turned up at Bovington, thinking I was going to drive a tank, and they stick you on a signals course, and you gut it.
I've heard a few people say that.
You're really excited for it, and oh no, you're not doing that yet. Did the signals, did various familiarisation training with Land Rovers and various other things. Did the H license in a 432. That's the only ever time I've driven a 432 was to get the H license tracked, and then went on to driving the maintenance of the big boy, the beast, the best.
Hey, honestly, don't slag 432s off. I've spent years on them.
Oh well,
I'll tell you what, if you get one of them at like 25 mile an hour, you know you're moving. It's fucking horrible.
Shake your brain out your ears.
You get if you were lucky, you got a 20 mile an hour in it, but if you did, you were like, how fast am I going? Because it felt a lot faster. And then just to touch him a little bit. We're off. That way.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've spoken the other guy who I spoke to from the Gareth Sub-Thomas. I kind of I wouldn't say I fanboyed about tanks. I mean, I was artillery, so I shouldn't anyway. Anyone who says, is that a gun or a tank? Well, that's a gun, that's a tank. What's the difference? I'm not even fucking going there.
It's horrible. I hate it.
Yeah,
I absolutely hate it.
Yeah. I literally had that conversation at work today. But no, I've got a. I don't even want to say this. You know, it's not fanboy and tanks, but I play like one game on a computer, right? And it's War Thunder, and it's just tanks. And
I've not heard of that.
Mate, look it up. You'd love it. It's really cool, and I play it every day. So I've got like, I wouldn't say an affinity for tanks, but I'm kind of like interested in them, you know, more than I probably should have been. Or should be. You know,
I have that aura about them.
I'm getting old. I shouldn't be playing computer games.
Yeah, it should. It's good fun.
But I mean, to see a Charlie up close for the first time, you just like. I mean, I think that we walked up to them once in a hangar in Bosnia, and I didn't realise how big they were.
Mm.
You know, I was used to like AS90 the size of that and stuff like that. And it's, you know, AS90 is tall, but it's just the immense size of the Challenger. I mean, I'd seen them when they were trialing them years ago when they were building them at Vickers up in Newcastle.
Yeah.
We were up at Albemarle Barracks for a football match, and Vickers used to use the airfield there to track test them. So we were like in this football match, and all of a sudden all these Charlies and shit went past. And
amazing.
The ARVs and what was it, the engineer one with the big fucking anti-mine thing.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, they come flying past on the airfield. We were just like, what the fucking hell are them type of? Because when I joined, it wasn't Charlies, it was Chieftain.
Yeah.
And
they had some noise though, didn't they, Chieftain?
Oh, yeah, but what a noise.
Yeah.
You knew they were coming.
Like a Velociraptor.
Yeah. Oh, no, but the Charlies, I think, are awesome.
Yeah.
So what was it like actually getting on them and in them? And
I would say the first time, obviously you've got the excitement, but then when they tell you that you're going to go off camp and you're going to drive on a public road with something that big, it's quite daunting, if I'm honest with you. You know, you clip a curb with that, you're not going to know it, but the curb will. You know, you clip a car with it, the car's gone. And you know, all credit to the instructors there. I've got a lot of time for the instructors, because some people, I mean, I could drive a car beforehand, but some of them got to phase 2 training. The first thing they would do is an intensive driving course to pass their driving test. So, a week or 2 weeks to pass a driving test in a Vauxhall Corsa. Then within a week or two after that, I assume it was, then you're driving a main battle tank, albeit it didn't have a turret on at that time, but still, you know, it's the best part of, well, you know, it just didn't fill me with confidence at all at that point. Felt better driving it than I did being a passenger, that's for sure. But yeah, driving at night was quite interesting as well. But it's that noise now that I've got whenever you were lying in your bed in Bovington. So when I was initially got there on the signals training, lying in your bed and they're out doing night driving, you could just hear the noise of the Challengers going around, just doing their.
They've got a distinct sound.
Do you know, it's absolutely wonderful, even now. And, you know, my wife, she'll think I'm a right sado, but there's no better sound, there's no better job, and there's no better feeling than being in one of them machines. Yeah, you don't want to do the track bashing, you don't want to change a pack in the desert. But, you know, when you're there, when you're driving and doing firing exercises and things, it's just incredible. It really is. I
mean, we bumped into them. What's that place in Wales? Castle Martin. Yeah, we had FH70 then. And we rocked up on the firing point because we were doing anti-tank as part of the best gun competition. So we rocked up, and there's all these Charlies parked on the firing point, and all the crews are sat on it. And they're like, "Oh, they're pea shooters, blah blah blah." We were like, "You don't want to move," and they were like, "No, we're all right." So we're about to fire. Charge super. You don't need to move from there because the FH baffles point backwards. And they were like, "No, we'll be on." Okay. Target start, target pops up and all that starts moving. Fire. Tell you what, they all got off them fucking tanks. They all flew off them because a tank's loud when it fires. It's nowhere near as loud as an artillery gun. It's especially like a field, I would say. It is menacingly loud. It's scary if you're not used to it.
Yeah,
Kick on them is fucking horrendous. But I mean, again, I mean, I've never been inside a tank, type of thing. And again, I'm getting all excited, fanboying. What's it like? What's it like? But it's a very different weapon system to artillery. We're not going to fire on the move and stuff like that. Unless it's an emergency and we're on fucking love. We have to. If we see someone shouts anti-tank, unless we hit it the first time, we're dead. We've got to hit that and kill it first time, or we're fucked. Even with the self-propelled, you're not getting away from a tank, unfortunately.
No.
I mean, what was it like on your first gunnery exercise with it then?
Oh, it was amazing. To be honest, that was the best training course I ever did, was down at Lulworth. Yes, the environment was part of it. You were in Weymouth every weekend. It was the summer and everything else. But the range packages and even, in the classrooms, it was just great fun. Just learning about something like that. I mean, who else has done that? Unless you've been in the military and that specific trade, nobody's going to have done that. And to be in that position, it was every little boy's dream or little girl's dream. You just want to do that. You want to tank. It's it's just incredible.
Cove is a good range as well. Believe it or not, I fired there with FA-70. That was fucking mental.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I actually, I've got two young daughters, and we like to go walking, just like we did when I was a kid and used to whinge about it. But we always go various places that are nice places in the country. I like to go to Pembroke, near Castlemartin. I like to go to Dorset, near the Tank Museum. I like to go to Weymouth, near Lulworth Cove, and of course that's where we go walking, and that's where we do. And
don't go over that fence.
Yeah, but there's such nice places around as well, actually. But yeah, it's definitely. There's a saying, actually, if you've been in the Royal Armoured Corps, it's the best job I ever had, and that's a fact. There's nothing going to beat that, and I'll say that to any potential employer out there that might employ me. You'll never beat it, no chance. And if you do, bring it on.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not a job, is it? It's a way of life. It's it's everything. I mean, like you say, especially serving out in Germany, you're in each other's pocket every weekend and stuff like that.
And I think that was the beauty of it. And I think things have probably changed now. They've moved back over here. But the difference is, my brother was in the military, as I've mentioned. He was based in the UK. He used to go home every weekend, see his mates, go out to the same place we'd go as we were younger. But for me, being out in Germany, you'd go to Berlin, or you'd go to Munich, or you'd go to Barcelona, and various other places that you probably wouldn't go because it was closer than going home. Some people would go home and, yeah, for sure. But coming back home used to be, I think it's about a 9-hour drive, and it would just cost a fortune. So you'd finish at 4:00 on a Friday afternoon. We didn't tend to get early finishes and late starts on a Monday morning. It just wasn't something that we did, really. And I've heard a lot of people do that. I don't know if that's mainly because it's in the UK that do that, but I've heard a few stories that people do that, and that's great, for people to get home and what have you. But it was just more time effective to go and see something different and do something new. And there's a few of us used to go and watch the local football teams, and the difference between a Premier League match here and a Bundesliga match. I mean, the cost, number one. Number two, you can have a bratty and a beer while you're watching it. The atmosphere is insane, still standing, and it's just a really great atmosphere. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time in Germany. And if I could do it all again, without a doubt, I would.
So what was it like turning up at the regiment for the first time?
Awful. Absolutely. I was shit scared, if I'm honest. And, you get through phase one and you think, yeah, look at me. On the bee's knees, I've just passed basic training. I'm a soldier. Yeah, whatever. Turn up to phase two. You're back at the bottom of the pile. Finish that, you think, I can drive a tank now. Look at that. Woo, I'm awesome. You turn up to the regiment, you think, shit, what is this place? And when I turned up, there was only a squadron there. The rest of the guys were in Kosovo. So it was a very, very strange atmosphere. It was just rear guard, really, and it was those duties that we were doing for a few months. So the day after turning up, well, the day we turned up, the guy that I mentioned, who was singing that song at the first day that we met at Phase 1 training, he was with me at that point. So, I knew somebody. We flew over together and got picked up together, so it did make it a lot easier. And he knew a few of the guys in from his hometown. And, they were really nice and said, right, we'll go out and get some food. And then you sit in your room. It's all single-man rooms at that point because the regiment were away. And you just sat there thinking, well, what am I doing now? What do I do? It felt really, really isolated. And I was, of course, so far away from home. And I felt so far away from home. Mobiles and social media and that wasn't a thing, obviously, back then. So, I had a mobile that was the old Nokias that you can send a text message on. But I think my dad and mum had decided, don't give in to it. Don't say, oh, come home, son, you'll be fine. Which, I thank them for that now, obviously. So it was a case of sitting down my own on that evening. And next morning, right, we're doing a BPFA. I thought, great, what a welcome to the regiment that is. and I failed the mile and a half by, I think it was about 2 seconds. And everyone was talking about it. And I was there thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? What is going on? I've just turned it, of course, finished Phase 2. I think it was 3 weeks or a month off. Been that age. Like I say, I wasn't the sportiest of people. That I, think about now, I don't know what I was doing. Maybe I was out drinking with mates or whatever. I don't really know. I was never really a big drinker then either. So, yeah, failed it by a couple of seconds. Pulled into the office. What's going on? Why have you failed? I said, well, I don't know. Get my best effort. They sent me to the med centre. I got tested for asthma and all other things, and all these tests. Shit. And anyway, I did it. I think it was the next day or the day after that. And no, in fact, they put me on remedial PT for a week, and then did it again, and obviously passed then. But how bloody embarrassing is that? And now I'm saying it on the podcast.
Not a good start for a...
No, it wasn't, was it? But yeah, what a way to. I wasn't the only one. I'll say that as well. But how embarrassing that was.
You should have just blamed it on the beer from the night before. They'd probably give you a medal for it then.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, and it's been mentioned many times on this podcast about the drinking culture, especially in Germany. You get out there as a young lad. I mean, if I was saying I got out there, in the late 80s, and there was still people, fucking hell, there was guys there who were like 22-year gunners, and they'd joined obviously 22 years before me.
Yeah.
Fuck me, they were just outies. Literally, they were drinking at lunchtime, and because the bars were open then, the Naffy bar was open at lunchtime. They'd go there, have 2 or 3 pints at lunchtime, come finish work, go back, get changed, Naffy bar every day.
Yeah, we were the same. Night. And it was something like 30 pence a pint, wasn't it, or something stupid?
Yeah, it was ridiculous, yeah.
So, why wouldn't you? It was social. Everyone else did it. So you felt obliged to do it. And I think, I don't know if it's the first night I got there. I suppose I could blame it on that, but I really can't remember if it was the first night. It probably wasn't. Of course, you go into the bar and they force you to do the top shelf and everything else back then. And it was that type of thing that, welcome to the regiment, I'll drink this. Oh, all right then. And off you go. But, I'm sure that those sort of things don't happen anymore. But it was...
I can't afford it.
Yeah, that's very true. But it was character building. And I've got I suppose it was a secret weapon, really, that I'm a bit of a lightweight. So I used to get pissed on two pints and a couple of shorts. Other people would be doing 10, 12 pints and then going on the shorts. So I was all right, actually. And some of the worst hangovers were those early days when it was like, well, drink that, do this, here's a beer, welcome here, welcome there, and you're like, whoa, it's a bit much for me. And once you establish yourself and people get to know you, and there's one time we were doing adventure training, and everyone was on it. We were going kayaking down in southern Germany, and there we were. I think England were playing in. It was in the World Cup. It was 2001 when they were in. Was it Japan?
No,
It's Japan and South Korea, I think.
I can't remember.
England were playing. It was on German telly, and they were having a few Steiners, and of course, I had two. I was absolutely pissed, and I got up the next morning as me, fresh as a daisy. Everyone else hung over, and they're like, "How are you? How are you not hungover?" I mean, I didn't dare to tell them I only had 2 pints, where they probably had 12. But that's just me. I've never really been able to hold my drink. So,
I mean, we've spoke to guys before on the podcast as well. They remember getting out to Germany, and again the drinking culture and stuff like that. But also that, the kids. I say kids, the young lads coming from training, being forced to drink like the Trump shells and stuff like that. And as much as it's like just a bit of banter and stuff. It's also a bit, peer pressure, a bit of bullying, initiation ceremonies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been part of it. Well, I didn't really get an initiation ceremony because my path to the guns was via being a clerk, and there's not really much of an initiation ceremony you can do to the guy who's been a clerk. Unless you're fucking drawn or something like that. You have to stand with a typewriter above his head. And then I ended up on the guns and didn't really happen to them. But been party to and seen plenty of different things involving PX grease and pull throughs and all sorts of shit like that. Did you suffer anything like that?
No, not personally. I mean, you've got the stupid ones, haven't you? Go and get a long wait, and go and get some P155. Well, of course, I don't know how I was wise to it, but I felt I knew what they're on about. And I always remember the one guy said, right, go and get some P155 from the store. So, yeah, fair enough. Off I walked. And I went and had a kip for an hour. He gave me the biggest bollocking when I got back. Where have you been? I said, well, you sent me to get P155. I've been looking everywhere for it. Don't you lie to me, you bastard. And I said, well, you sent me. Don't send me next time for something stupid.
And I fucking twigged it, so you're fool on you.
Yeah, so it was funny though. Looking back, you think, well, I hope he learnt from that.
Probably not. Because he'll just get the next lad that comes in and does it.
Well, no, it was me getting the next lad that done it, because that's the way it was, wasn't it? It was right. If you turn the turret 11 times to the left, it comes off. So
we used to say that with Abbott.
Yeah,
and I believed them.
Oh, of course you do, don't you?
24, I think it was 24 and a half times, and then they could lift the turret off because it was on a screw, and I was like, really?
It's funny, isn't it?
It took me a while to think. Oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Tire pressures for the track pads.
Oh.
What?
Brilliant.
What? Yeah, that bolt on the back, you put the hose on there. What? Just daft things and shit.
We had one with the barrel, and we got it to a certain height so it was level, and got someone to stand up and hold it. So, right, brace yourself. We're going to undo it. So someone gets in with the manual, just cranks it down a little bit.
Fucking hell! You just remembered. I've just remembered something there. So, like back in the day, like a battery was 6 guns, but we always had 2 extra war stuff in case the Russians came over the border. And these 2 guns were sat in the garages under, like care and press. But once a year, they'd have to be proof fired, so they'd be taken up the Horner, with the rest of the regiment their own exercise, and they'd be fired. And me and this other guy were taught to get it ready, take it out of mothballs. So we'd gone down to this gun, and we had to lower the breech in. So you undo the tension on the breech, and the guy gets the handle and lowers it. With an Abbott, I mean, it's not a very big breech, but you've got to climb underneath it and get your arms underneath the breech, and then as he lowers it, you carry it down. And as I was getting under, I'd already took the tension off the bar. And I can't remember the name of it, so I'm just saying bar. The guy got hold of the LBM and released it, and then left go of it, which was a bit unfortunate because my head was underneath where the breech was, and it fell straight out and hit me on the back of the head.
Oh.
Right, and bounced off me and went out the back of the gun. Right, and believe it or not, it didn't hurt. I just went, "What the fuck was that?" And he went, "Are you all right? I just dropped the breech on your head." And I went, "Hang on, we've got another 2 weeks on exercise." I fainted on the floor. And he ran off shouting, "I've killed Frankie, I've killed Frankie." And then come back, and then I realised actually it did fucking hurt. It was just, I think it was just a shock of it. I was in fucking bits. I just put a 70-pound breech block on the back of my head. Yeah, fucking hell. I'll have to chase him up on Facebook, see if he remembers. Fucking was Ashley, yeah. So what was regimental life like then? I mean, you were coming to probably some more interesting times. You mentioned the guys were in Kosovo. They'd come back from Kosovo.
When they were coming back, we were then starting our build-up training to go out to Kosovo. So we were going out with the Queen's Royal Lancers. And we'd started as a squadron to do our training, really, really getting into regimental life and, really enjoying it as well. Following that initial, shit, what am I doing here? Where am I? Failing the BPFA and then sort of turned it round in a week. I think, give me the kick up the arse that I needed. Made some really, really good friends, as everybody on these podcasts will say as well. They're friends for life. You're not just colleagues, are you? You're pretty much living together 24/7, especially being out in Germany.
Yeah.
The training for Kosovo was going really well. There was the final sort of exercise that we were going to do in Norfolk, Stanta, isn't it, in Norfolk?
Yeah.
So I got on a coach, came over. I think it was a 12-hour coach journey, gone and done all this training. And next thing I knew, my left leg was twice the size and black, and there was pus coming at the top of it, and I was in agonising pain, couldn't walk. Went over to I can't remember who it was now. Well, obviously in the chain of command, and said, "Look, I'm not feeling well. Look at my leg." And he went, "Okay, we're going home tomorrow, so you'll be all right. We'll get back to Germany, and then we'll take you to the med centre." So sat there. I mean, there's a medic there who obviously checked out and said, "Right, yeah, keep your leg elevated. Yeah, on a coach. Yeah, that'll go down well when there's no spare seats or anything."
I'll just sit upside down, yeah.
Yeah, so gave me tuba grip and brufen, of course. Sat on the coach, slept for the whole time. Tried to get off the coach, just legs wouldn't move. Could not move at all. It was completely solid. Couldn't bend it. Couldn't walk. Couldn't put any weight on it. Went, "I need to go to bed centre." "Yeah, go to bed. Take your bags and go to bed, and we'll go on sick parade in the morning." I thought, "Oh my God, how am I going to do this?" So off I went. Thankfully, someone helped me with the bags and sort of grabbed my shoulder and took me in, and went up to the guard room. Of course, the med centre over there was in a different camp, so you have to go and get the duty vehicle, and it took a good hour to get there. And as soon as I got into that med centre, you could see the panic in their faces that it was, oh shit, that it's not good. And I went then into the German hospital. I was in intensive care for what felt like months. When I came round, basically it had been a tropical disease, they've called it. Most likely a snake bite. And they said, I'm lucky to be alive. No, lucky to keep my leg, even luckier to be alive. And there I was in this hospital bed in a German hospital. Nobody could speak English. Obviously, I couldn't speak German. I'd only been in Germany for probably 2 months, 3 months, if that. And phoned my mum and dad. Managed to get a phone. There was a Red Cross lady that came round and gave me the phone. And my mum and dad were like, "Oh, how's Kosovo, son?" Like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm not there. I haven't gone, and I've just been in intensive care for however long.
So no one from the regiment had contacted your parents?
No, and I think the issue was the chain of command. Really, that most of the regiment, RHQ, were all in Kosovo, and it was just a small holding squadron really back in camp. I know that's no excuse, but it's one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah.
So my dad got on the phone to to the commanding officer, I think it was, and the next thing I knew, I had visitors with grapes and McDonald's and everything else. But like I say, it's one of those things.
Snake bite in Norfolk.
That's what they say. That's what they say it was. I suppose it could have been a false widow, I suppose. But it was
The lesser spotted Norfolk rattler.
Well, who knows? It could have been an escape. You just never know what it was. In that sort of environment, I remember it being quite hot. And I had this drain on it to get rid of all of the poison out of it, and they said, right, you go back to your back to camp, and it was a case of, well, they've gone to Kosovo now. The other guys are back from Kosovo that are now on post-op tour leave, so there's nobody on camp at all, and it's the toilet's all the way down the block. They're obviously not en suite. I can't get anywhere. I don't know anyone. I don't know anything. I can't speak the language. What am I going to do? So I managed to get sick leave. I think I was on sick leave for 2 months. And they said I couldn't fly because of this thing that was on it with this drain. I had to get on the coach that was, I think it was a 20-hour coach journey or something stupid like that, because it stopped at all these other places picking people up. And it was like, well, they have to keep it elevated. How can I do that on a coach? And I remember saying to the driver, I need to keep it elevated. He said, sit there. It's like, well, it's just a normal seat. Where am I putting my leg? Got back to the UK and got my mum and dad drove me straight down to A&E. I really wasn't well at all. And all the stitches had burst, and it was all horrible, and it was infected because it wasn't elevated. I wasn't having the treatment I needed, and that was really affecting me. The scar now is probably 3 times the size it should have been if the stitches would have just worked. But it wasn't a good time at all, considering that was my first year in the regiment without even deploying. You think you got a tropical disease. Oh, you get that in Kosovo or Iraq, did you? No, Norfolk. So, that was my sort of first early days at regimental duty. Got there on an embarrassing statement, then turned it round, felt really good about myself, made loads of new friends, started training for this op tour that I was going on that I was really excited about. And then it all going downhill again and thinking, well, that's my career over. That was me. Really did think that was that.
Yeah. So what was next for you then after that?
Quite a lot of rehab. And they sent me back to Germany after, I think it was a couple of months. Back to Germany. The guys had gone back from post-op tour leave, so they were doing regimental duties. I was working in the Sergeant's Mess bar, one officer Sergeant's Mess bar, which was, it was quite a nice job, actually. Quite enjoyed it. Was doing something at least, and doing physio every day. I think that's probably what got me fitter than I was previous, to be perfectly honest. Although it is classed as I've got a 5% disability in my left leg even now, for muscle wastage and loss from that. Then, once I'd done the physio and everything, I managed to then get out to Kosovo and finish the tour with the guys, which was really nice. So I did half a tour. Yeah. So I was a search team operator. It came at a really good time because it just put everything together. And I do think having a tour like that, not straight from training, but, not too far after it, just joins the dots from all of your training, and you're able to put it all together, piece everything together, and actually do the job that you've trained to do. So we were going out on various patrols. We went out with the US military as well, and did a few joint ops with the Swedish, and it was just a great introduction. And I'm gutted I was only there for half of the tour, but at least I got out there and did half of it.
Yeah,
that was the main thing for me.
but it is like you say. You got in my day, you'd turn up at a regiment and do nothing. There was the only things that were going on was like Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Not everyone got to go there. I was quite lucky, unlucky, depends how you look at it. But I was quite lucky to get out to an island tour quite quickly. And then when we come back from Ireland, it was just a maze tour, so it wasn't a full 6 months. We come back and it was just exercise. That's all it was. And then we got posted back to the UK, and then the first Gulf War kicked off, and we went out to that, which was, it was battle casualty replacements, which again was like go over there and wait type of thing.
Yeah.
But we ended up doing some quite interesting, funky stuff over there. We ended up guarding embassies and stuff. That was quite cool. But you're right, that first tour, and again, a lot of guys have spoke about it, that, and for a lot of guys my age and just a bit younger, Ireland was always the first tour. For another generation, it was Bosnia and Kosovo.
Yeah.
And then the later generations, people were joining the army and going straight out to fucking Afghan.
Yeah. Crazy that.
Literally, within 18 months, sort of 12 months, some of them, from joining the military, boots on the ground in Afghan.
Yeah.
Fucking,
that's one way to learn, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, you're right, it solidifies your soldier. It puts everything into context. You're not a fucking sprog anymore, type of thing. Well, you're not a sprog once the next one comes in, but then you're always a sprog.
Well, I don't know. Like I've said, I've got military family, and I'm still a crow. I'm still a sprog, and of course, with parachute regiment in the family, I'm still a hat.
Yeah. So you've shit it on all fronts, haven't you?
Yeah.
So what was after Kosovo for you then?
Well, actually, it was a medicine hat over in Canada on the tanks, fully armoured exercise.
I bet that was fun. I bet
it was amazing. Live firing as well. It was just brilliant. A good bunch of people, and we had a turn in the weather. It was red hot one day, and then about -12 the day after. Of course, you sleep on the back decks because it's nice and warm, and wake up covered in a foot of snow, which is never nice. But the exercise itself was just, Canada's amazing. I'd never been over that side of the world at all. So going there was always something I'd wanted to do. And of course you get your R&R after. So I went skydiving just because I was sick of my dad taking the piss out of me, so I thought, well, I'm going to go and jump out of a plane. And my brother then was the one having the piss taken out of him because he'd never done it at that point. I know it's very different, but still.
You're not getting me out of a plane. No way. The time I'm going out of a plane is I've drank all the duty free and someone's dragged me off it. There's no way I'm jumping out of one. No chance.
It's good fun, actually. Do you know, we did 6 jumps out there. And the first couple were brilliant. Really, really just, it's that adrenaline. And of course you pack it yourself, which I was never quite keen on. I'd rather a professional pack it than me. And
but then you can blame you.
Well, exactly. That's why they do it. And then the third jump was a bit more like, oh, what if this goes wrong? What if this happens? And you start being a lot more aware of your surroundings. You're jumping from a decent height, so you've got plenty of time coming down to think of these things. And you're like, oh, that doesn't feel quite right. That's not as tight as it was last time. What's this? What's that? Being Canada, well, certainly on that ranch, health and safety didn't seem to be a thing. It was you climb out of the side of this Cessna and you hang on the strut of the wing. And like something out of James Bond or something, where you're hanging on, looking at this camera. I know that the reason they do it is that you're in the right position when you let go, and that's your sort of free fall position that you have to get used to. And it was brilliant. Absolutely loved it, and I'd love to do it again. I really would, but I sort of question it now. I've got 2 young children.
Yeah.
But I want to do the military jumps. I really am desperate to get in Second World War uniform and jump out of a Dakota into Holland.
I've got a mate who does that. He goes all around doing it. You know, and
I love it.
He puts pictures on Facebook and I'm amazed.
So if anyone's watching this or listening to this and has any links into that, please let me know.
I'll mention his name to you after this.
Thank you.
I don't know if he'll do that, but you never know.
No, there is a company that do it out in Holland.
Yeah.
But you know, there's various payments and other stuff that you've got to sort out, which you know is fair enough. Yeah. I think I'll do it at some point, but I've got a couple of illnesses that might stop me from doing it that we'll probably come on to later on.
So after Canada, back to Germany?
Yeah, back to Germany, got into regimental duty and you know, thoroughly enjoying things. And at that point, it was a case of, right, there you go. The Iraq invasion had taken place, and we were sort of third in, Telic 3 we were.
Right.
So we'd done a lot of training for it. Very strange that back then how the training was conducted, sort of very low level, and then obviously get on a plane and off you go. And that, I think that's when it hit home that this is a very different operational tour than Kosovo. A few of the guys have been to Cyprus as well, and you know they sort of said that was the Sunshine Tour, which, you know, whether it was or not, I've not been. So just from what people have said, that was a very different one again. But you know, that's what we joined for. But we'd done that exercise on the Challengers in Canada. We'd done some live firing at Hona in Germany, and then we get told we're going out to Iraq, and you know you see the Scots DGs out there with Challengers, and you think, yeah, you know, we're going to go and do what we're trained to do here. Yes, we did take a couple of Challengers, and we did use them out there, and I was given a Land Rover, which, you know, you don't really expect. You're out there as a light role, really. Yeah. You know, you're doing foot patrols. You've got Land Rovers. Whilst I was out there, I was promoted and given the role as commanding officer's driver, and that was a fantastic role. So I was part of headquarters squadron, command troop, and then you know we had the ops room and everything out there, various foot patrols and all other sorts of stuff. But doing that job as CO's driver really opened up a lot for me. It really did. I'm one of these people that like to know the why. I mean, I'd never question anybody of that authority as to why when you're in that position, of course. But you get to know reasons why, and you get to know where you're going and what you're doing it for. And it really sort of it was quite fitting for me. Really, really was the job for me. And of course, you know, I've mentioned before I'm a bit of a car nut, and it meant that I could play around with vehicles and what have you, and you know, give me a V8 Land Rover Discovery, bright red with British forces on the front, of course, in the desert. That's not going to stick out much, but you know, it really gave me a sense of doing something worthwhile and being able to go to places that you'd never have gone, ever. And you know, some of the conversations you'd overhear, of course, you'd never repeat them, but you get very. You're a bit more aware of the situation and the reasons why things are happening, and I'm very, very grateful that I was picked for that position, without a doubt.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, as a CO's driver, you'd have been here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah. And, you know, I did it once we got back as well in Germany for a while, and you know, you're a chauffeur, you're a Batman, but there's a bond, and it was. Yeah, it's something I look back with great fondness, definitely.
It's either going to go one or two ways. You're either going to do well and get seen, or, God forbid, you fucking crash the car and get sacked. And that's
well,
career
I'll stop you there. Oh, dear.
Go on,
well, so after we'd finished in Iraq, so yeah, I did a full tour of this one. I think it was 7 months we did, I think. Just to go back again, actually, I was fortunate enough to have a Christmas slot for the R&R whilst in Iraq. which of course, at that time I didn't have a family. So, it was a case of, right, choose one. All the families obviously given first choice of when they want to go. But for whatever reason, nobody wanted to go at Christmas. And I think, I don't know if it was Christmas, I think it was Christmas Eve I went. Got home to Bryce Norton, put on a train in Swindon, and it obviously still in full kit. And the amount of beers that were bought for me that day on the way back home to Staffordshire was just insane. I don't think people do that anymore in uniform either. But that was the way it was then, I think, wasn't it? So, it was quite nice to have that. It was bang on the middle of the tour as well, so it was quite refreshing to have that. So back in Germany after Iraq, I had a Vauxhall Vectra, it's a 1.9 diesel, and it would do 131 miles flat out. Now, I can tell you that because we lived in Germany, it was on the Autobahn, and we were allowed to do that. And the command officer at the time lives not far from me, actually. I see him now and then, and he makes me smile every time I see him. He's an absolutely wonderful man, and his family.
Go on.
So, 2 points with CO's driver that don't reflect too well. The first, I'll give you the best one. Let's just go with the best one. And this ended up on me going to do the staff car driver's course at Leconfield. And probably should have happened beforehand, but it happened a good few months into my time as CO's driver. So we were going to Hona for an exercise to join in with the guys. And we were in a Vauxhall Vectra, does 131 miles an hour flat out on the German Autobahn. And for whatever reason, we were running late. So I was told, don't spare the horses, and off we went. There was a fuel tanker on the right, 2 lanes of the motorway. So I was in the outside lane, and a Mercedes pulled out right in front, doing considerably less than we were. So it was a case of going left into the barrier, right into a fuel tanker, which obviously wouldn't end well for anybody. So I thought, well, I'm just going to hit the brakes as hard as I possibly can and hold it straight. And it slowed a little bit and then wallop straight into the back of this Mercedes. They had a tow bar on. It was an old E-Class Mercedes, probably 1990s. Because of the tow bar on it, it had hardly any damage whatsoever.
I was going to say, you just scratched it.
And you look at the Vectra that we had, it was a 2005 Vectra, I think. The whole bonnet, the whole engine, the whole front of the car had crumpled into the cabin just about. It wasn't drivable. There was obviously fluid and everything else everywhere. Luckily, there was a service station about 100 metres down the road, so we trundled along into there and pulled over and thought, oh my God, I've just crashed the CO's car. But the CO was in there reading the map at the time. The RSM was in the back with a coffee. It went everywhere, and it was just like, oh, what have I done here? It wasn't my fault. I think I reacted very well. And, we got to where we were in this service station, pulled over, very happy that we didn't have camera phones back then because it's not documented, although at the end, I'll come to that in a second. We phoned up MT, who sent a new car, got into this car, and the colonel says, right, we're even more late now, let's go. So straight back on the motorway, 131 miles an hour again, woo, straight to Hona. By the time we got back to camp, turned up to our HQ, and what followed me in, with the whole regiment, or most of the regiment, on parade or walking around the square, was the recovery truck with my crumpled CO's vehicle on it, right behind me, followed me in and stopped right outside our HQ. You just couldn't make it up, could you? It was one of those things that just so bloody embarrassing. But, well, it turned out that the gentleman that had been rear-ended took me to court, however it happened. I didn't speak German. But the CO did, and apparently he found out that no further action been taken because the speed that he was going was too slow to be getting into that lane. So it worked out very well in the end. Just not for my reputation.
I mean, you were lucky. You were lucky to be alive, though.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that. I think from skill and precision of the way I dealt with the situation, and yeah,
a big chunk of luck.
Yeah, there's always going to be an element of luck in it, isn't
there?
Yeah. I mean, you'd probably say we're unlucky because it was 4 a.m. There was hardly any traffic on the road. What are the chances of there being 2 vehicles there at that point and him pulling out from a blind spot straight in front of the tanker? It's lucky or unlucky. Either way, nobody was hurt, and just the ego. That's all that went. However, it got me on the advanced driving course that was instructed by the police force up in Leckensfield. Which, I mean, that's some course. That was brilliant. Thoroughly enjoyed that course.
Doing J-turns and all sorts.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to do that.
I loved it. It was basically a week or 2 weeks. I think it was a week of getting in a car with a couple of other guys and a retired police officer, and driving around as fast as you can, overtaking everything, doing various drills of getting on and off motorways and evading tactics and trying not to roll the car, followed by a McDonald's coffee and the same again in the afternoon. And then how to clean your car, which I always found was quite amusing, that after a day like that, they had to teach you how to clean a car. I mean, I'd been CO driver for a while. I've been in the military for a good few years at that point. So it was like, well, it didn't seem right to have that after. You think you'd do that as a basic course somewhere, but hey, that's one of those things. Well, yeah. I mean, the thing I always found odd about Leckensfield is when you turn up, that you had to do duties, even though you're there on course, and they'd put you on I think it's a bowling alley. I was on a duty bowling alley NCO or something stupid like that. Which, we were told, because you're doing an intensive driving course like that, you rest and recuperation after you finish.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing anything.
Yeah. So, yeah, very odd. But, it's one of those things, I suppose. So
after the staff car incidents and driving a CO, what was next for you?
I actually left the military in 2006. To this day, I really don't know why. I felt it was the right thing to do at that time, and off I went, and did various jobs. I worked in security. I was a window cleaner, and then another security job, loss prevention job, and then it really hit me that I thought, why the hell did I leave the military? The best job I've ever had, and I've just thrown it all away for nothing. So in 2009, I went to rejoin the regiment, and at that point, recruiting was quite high. I said, I know that it's full. We're not recruiting for rejoiners at that point. Have you tried FTRS? And I thought, I haven't. I've never even heard of it. So I had a look at that and went for a job at the Royal Centre for Defence Medicine as part of their welfare team. The official title is welfare driver, but it became quite apparent on day one that you're not just a driver. You're very much part of the welfare patient support services, they called it, but definitely part of the welfare provision for injured troops and their families. And I did that for 5 years, and that was something else.
So I bet that can be a bit rough.
Yeah, that was. I mean, from day one, it was a case of this is so and so. Their child is in intensive care and probably not going to make it. Can you make them comfortable and see if there's anything they need? I mean, where the hell do you start with that? What do you do? And thankfully, the team that took me on there were very good, very professional. And all full-time reserve service personnel. and it was just mind-blowing, the amount of people that were coming back injured from Iraq, Afghanistan, and anywhere else that they were. It could be somebody that had broken their wrist falling on a ladder on a ship, or it could be that had multiple wounds from Helmand province. One of the hardest things, there's a lot of hard things there, but one of them was when my regiment were out in Afghanistan, and you get your own mates coming back and seeing their families and having to speak to their families about what's happened and trying to support them. And probably the toughest one out there was when somebody was coming back, and I looked at the name and thought, no, can't be the same person. And I walked around the corner, and it was my brother's best mate from school. And it was a case of, oh, shit. On a personal level, I've got to tell my brother. And how the hell am I going to tell him that's happened? Of course, I spoke to the family first before I told him. And they were very happy and very welcoming that I was going to tell him. And, there's a lot that could be said about that job. But I'm not going to talk about it too much. Just due to the nature of it and the people that were there. But the people that I met, families injured, and charities alike, absolutely wonderful, remarkable people that are just out of this world. They really, really are.
I mean, did you get any training with that, or was it just a case of crack on and pick it up as you go along?
Pretty much pick it up as you go along. There obviously was training, but not to the extent that it was needed, really. And I think because it was classed as a driver role, it was more of, well, you're there to transport family from A to B or injured troop from A to B. But actually, it wasn't that. And again, it's learning on the job. You've got the experience, and that was the big thing. I haven't been to Afghanistan, but I'd been to Iraq. I'd been to Kosovo. I'd had enough about me that I think I was professional enough to be able to manage that situation and to learn from others. And it became apparent quite quickly that was what I was meant to do. And I do a very similar job now, and I have done pretty much since then. I've done various things that's similar. It's such a rewarding job. But yeah, it was literally thrown in the deep end, really. But of course, mandatory training is there, and it always will be there, to give you the basics and to give you the insight of what's needed to be done. But how can you train for somebody's mother to be stood in front of you seconds after being told that her child has lost both legs or has unfortunately been killed? And you can't really have training for it in that sense, because you're never really going to be able to replicate that situation unless you've been there. And
I mean, I know from my experience, the last job I did in the military was a desk job, working in the RC. And sometimes one of the duties of like the regimental officer at a certain rank, sometimes the NAs or whatever, they don't get, they don't get picked for orderly officer because they've done all that and they're above that.
Yeah.
What they do get picked for and dicked for is, like, I think it was a month at a time. There's no notification officer.
Yeah.
And they dreaded it when they got that call saying, like, you're notification officer for fucking Northeast, basically.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I don't think, well, the three of them I used to work with who got picked for, I don't think any of them actually got to do it. The trepidation from it, it weighed on them. Like, how the hell do you go and knock on the door type of thing? but someone's got to do it.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
that's
a good
it.
thing.
And it's something that you're privileged to do. I would say it's got to be a privilege, and it's something that I'll never ever forget any of that what I've done, because it was such a necessity for everybody involved. It really was. When you think
So
back to 2009 and 10, how there's a documentary on recently about Afghanistan, and there was a lot. There was a lot.
Yeah.
We'd go from point of the aircraft landing at the Birmingham airport and accompany them across to the hospital, and from there to then seeing some of them just flourish. I mean, the sense of humour is wicked. It really is. To flip it on its other end of how hilarious it was at times. Certainly at Halloween, with somebody with only one limb, who was lying on the floor with a skeleton around him, and the nurses would just shit themselves. Some of the camaraderie was there, wasn't it? It was something that was just incredibly, just. I haven't really got the words to say how privileged I am.
Anyone who's listening who understands it knows what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Because I haven't got the words for that either. Them guys at places like Sallyhogue and places like that, they've got so much to deal with, and they deal with it. I mean, not everyone, it doesn't work as well for everyone, but they've got so much courage, and I think that's all part of the military ethos, and also the bravado and stuff like that as well. No, I thought it was someone knocking at the door to be a cat. Fucking thing. I just spot that, didn't it? I mean, I saw, just to catch up with, go back onto that again. I mean, you mentioned, I'll go back a little bit, sorry. You mentioned that doing this led to what you did later on in life. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, there's another step after that, actually.
Right, okay.
So I did I think it's 4.5 years. I did at RCDM, Selly-Oak and QE. And it weighed on me quite a lot. Like it does with everybody in that position. Usually within the military, you've got a 2-year tour, or 3, or maximum, I think, was usually 4. But yeah. I think probably 2 was enough in that particular role of how busy it was at that time. Although I'd never change it. I'd still be there now if I could, in one sense, but I needed to leave at that point. So I decided I was going to leave that role and try for something different. Because when you've been doing something, it does get a bit stale in one sense. Things had quietened down as well. So we weren't getting it wasn't as busy as it was. So there was a lot more of sort of the stagging on and MT type roles rather than the business it had been with certain patients. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm gonna try something different. I looked at various jobs, wanted to go back to my regiment, of course. However, we found a medical problem with my eyesight. So I was diagnosed with keratoconus, not to be confused with keratoconus. But you probably noticed throughout the whole of this, I wink a lot, blink a lot, and twitch a lot. It's all due to the condition that I've got. So it's a degenerative eye condition that causes basically a thinning of the cornea. So my eyes are pointy. I've got reduced vision, so a lot of blurred vision, and I've got a lot of pain. There's sensitivity to light, retinal migraines, and it varies from day to day whether I can see properly or not. There's floaters, and there's what I call a kaleidoscope effect. So sometimes I'll be walking along and it's like the northern lights in my eyes that are just whirling around, and that's me. So I wear specialist contact lenses that are solid, rigid gas permeable lenses that I'd love to show you now, but if I take them out, I won't be able to get them back in. It's a bit dark. I've got this little special plunger that you can take them out with, and it's like a suction cup. It's horrible. But because it was so painful to get it in and out, what I've got now is 2 contact lenses in each eye. There's one a soft lens, which is, they call it a piggyback, and that's for comfort. And then this other lens goes on top for vision. If I go like that with my right eye, there's 5 of you in front of me. If I go like that, I can't see the screen. But together, I can just about drive. I've still got my driving licence on a good day. So the DVLA state that if you can read the certain line of the Snellen chart in a clinical environment, in a optometrist's office, then you're allowed to drive. That doesn't bring in conditions of light, wind, rain, anything else. So it's on the driver to make that decision on the day whether they can drive or not. So officially, yes, I've got my driver license, but it really does depend what, when, where, who, and why. So because of that, I'm not going to be able to fire a weapon system properly again. I'm not going to be able to do anything. It was quite devastating, actually. And doing a job that was driving for a living as well, that did have a bit of an impact on it. So I looked again on the FTRS website, and there was a job for recruiting group as a recruiting NCO. And I thought, you know what? A desk job is probably what I need right now. I want to stay in that military environment, but I can't fire a weapon system. I can't drive for a living. So I think that might be quite nice. And a bit more of a relaxed feel than the job I'd just been coming out of. There was 2 positions, one in Coventry, one in Hereford. Got family in Hereford. I always wanted to move down to Hereford. So I put in for both. I thought, well, we'll see what I get. I was told I didn't get the job, either of them, which I found quite strange, because the day before I had a phone call from the recruiter in Hereford saying you're starting next week. And then the official email came through and said you'd not been selected. And then I had a phone call from Glasgow saying, oh, sorry, we've made a mistake. You are starting. You've got to go on your course next week. I thought, brilliant. So I transitioned from one FTRS to another, and with a promotion as well, which was quite nice. And you know what? That recruiting group job was just the thing that I needed. It really did bring me on leaps and bounds from being so tired, because that job at RCDM really, really took it out of me.
I can imagine.
It was just, when things happen, and they happen for a reason. I'm a firm believer of that, and my nan used to always say that. And, I think back to what she used to say. I think, well, do you know what? You're right. And it does work out. So, yeah, ended up then having to move to Hereford and find somewhere to live and everything else that goes with it. So moving from Birmingham at that point. Bit of a whirlwind. Quick turnaround, really. I was on a course in Bovington, and it was brilliant being back in Bovington. Going there to do a recruiting course at the same place that I did my driver training all those years ago was just fabulous. You'd be sitting in a classroom doing recruiting stuff, and you'd hear the challengers go past, and I'd get all twitchy. So yeah, it was such a good course, actually. I learned a lot. Public speaking was something that I'd started to do a bit more because of that. Able to go and speak to schools of 250 people in audience, to various local dignitaries in the area about army recruiting. I've been put in charge of schools liaison, which I think was, before recruiting group changed, it was a commissioned officer's job to do that schools liaison. And there was me as a corporal doing that job, which I felt really good about. That was the norm. That's what happened when recruiting group changed to FTRS. So, I took it in my stride and really enjoyed it and made the most of it. Volunteered for every course I could do. Became a mountain bike instructor and did sports afternoons on a Wednesday afternoon, and went in and wanted to go and prove a point of passing a BPFA, even though we didn't have to as FTRS. I wanted to prove a point. So I did the ETL course, the Endurance Training Leader course, that was a sort of low-level regimental, nowhere near PTI, but sort of interim, if you like, for people. But I wanted that for my own benefit more than anything else. But it did help within Recruiting Group because we could conduct various sessions with potential recruits to get them to the required standard. And obviously to do that course, you had to pass it yourself. Which I felt really that I needed to do that, because how can you recruit people and tell them they have to pass this course at this time and at this BMI and this press-ups and sit-ups if you couldn't do it yourself? So I'm a firm believer of, you've got to be able to do it yourself before that. So yeah, I did that job for nearly 5 years, I think it was. And then unfortunately, Recruiting Group changed, and they were Capita had decided, I think, that it was going to be more civilian based, and all the FTRS people were essentially made redundant. It's not really classed as redundancy, but contracts ended, if you like. And because of my medical condition, I couldn't then go and get another FTRS job anywhere else. And I was I think I was 4 months short of the VRSM, which is the reserve equivalent of the long service good conduct, because it used to take into consideration your time served regular. So I was absolutely gutted about that. Just, it would have been the icing on the cake to have finished. But as it happened, the last day in uniform, and now bearing in mind, like I said, I was only a corporal. I was asked to be county parade marshal for Hereford's Remembrance Sunday parade, and obviously usually that's done by a senior NCO, isn't it? So for me to do that, and that was my final day in uniform, was to be county parade marshal, smart as a carrot, proud as punch on that, Remembrance Sunday, taking that parade. But it's a day that, of course, we'll never forget because it's Remembrance Sunday. Yeah. But that particular one, last day in uniform, because there's no chance of me going back in uniform unless they can give me a new eyeball, I suppose. But who knows? So yeah, that was the last day for me, and that's where things went downhill quite quickly.
Right.
So I went, took it within my stride, thinking, I'll take it as this is my way into civilian life. I'll use the resettlement process. To be honest, the thing with resettlement was I went in with a bunch of people that really wanted to leave and hated the army. And there was me, didn't really want to leave, but doing resettlement with these people. And it didn't fit right. I think for people in that position, yes, the ranks were different, but I should have been in with somebody that had done the full 22 that were leaving because it was their end of term. Because for me, it was the end of term. It wasn't the case that I was leaving because I wanted to. So I don't think I got the benefit out of resettlement as much.
Well, to be fair, I don't think you would have anyway, because I spoke to a hell of a lot of people and a transition from uniform into civilian, and even for myself as well. I remember mine. It's not that good a process. There's more can be done. That's a whole. That's a whole other podcast, really. Is to talk about that for hours.
Yeah. So yes,
it is. It is a hard thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I thought I had the advantage because I'd worked in Recruiting Group in a lot of careers fairs and various networking sessions. I thought that I was in a perfect position to transition, and I actually got a job with telecommunications, and the training element was brilliant. Made some good mates, had a laugh, a few ex-military there as well. It really went really well until I started the job and I was on my own. I didn't like being on my own at that point. I mean, we all, I like being on my own now and then, but you've gone from a military environment of an office of 5 people, seeing people all the time, to installing telecoms on your own. And with my eyesight problems, I was driving every day. Never thought that one through, did I? And all the little connectors and wirings were tiny. I couldn't see them, so I had to carry a little magnifying glass and look the right twat. So I just hit rock bottom. There was thoughts going through my mind what am I going to do now? I need to get out of this place. I need a way out. And the way out, I was thinking, was if I crash my van into that lamppost over there, I won't be able to go to work, and they'll just tell me to go home. And that's all I wanted to do, was go home. I don't think there's any more to it at that point. I just didn't want to do it anymore, and I just wanted to go home. So I did that a few days in a row. I never did crash the van. It was never anything that I attempted to do, but there was always just that thought of feeling. And one day, I just sat in that van, sobbing, absolutely sobbing my eyes out for about an hour. But what has gone wrong in my life? I've got everything in my life that I could ever want, but not the job. And it really hit me. So I found my mother and had a good conversation with my mother. She told me to go and see the GP, told me to go home and tell them you're not feeling well. So I was signed off for about 2 months. Went through talking therapies, civilian. And that it was okay. I think it worked. It seemed to work at the end of it, but there was a few things that happened, which we'll come on to, that happened at once. So it's hard to say what actually did help. So I took the decision to leave that job, and it was the right decision. And I went into, there's a recruiting company down the road in the city. So I walked in. I said, look, this is my background. I just need a job. I don't know what to do. And she offered me a job there and then in that recruiting place, only a temporary position, which I thought, brilliant. It's nice to feel wanted. And I did that job for about a month, and it was awful. Hated it. I just couldn't do it. It wasn't for me. The targets that you were given were just not very nice, and the people, nice people, nothing against them at all, but it just wasn't for me. And I found myself on the third floor window ledge, just sat there looking down, tears streaming down my eyes, thinking, well, that's that. There's nothing else I can do now. I've tried everything. I don't want to be here. Don't want to do it anymore. And this nice gentleman that worked with us came up, and I still see him now actually, and give him a nod. He had a good chat with me, got me a glass of water and everything, and off. Told me to phone the doctor and go home, sort of thing. Why was I that worried? It was a temporary job that I could have just left, but I didn't want to admit defeat, I suppose, or failure. It was a case of you just can't do it. What you're stupid. Why are you here? And again, it all transpired that I went home, had a chat, and applied for a job. I still don't know why I looked for a job that day, because usually, you'd think you're in that situation, you'd just do nothing, would you? Or go get drunk or whatever. But I just went and looked at a job, and I found it, and I thought, that's the Defence Medical Welfare Service as a welfare officer, part-time in Hereford. And I thought, well, I've worked with them at RCDM, at Selly Oak. I know them, that's military still, but not military. So I thought, well, what's the worst can happen? And I went and had all my head shaved. I don't know why I did it. My head was completely shaved off. They called me for an interview, didn't they? And I was thinking, oh my God, I've got to put a suit on and my head looks stupid and all this. And I turned up for this interview, I think it was only 3 days later. And it went awful. Well, I thought it went awful. And I came out there thinking that was the worst interview I've ever had. They said they'll get in touch next week. I think it was on a Friday. So they get in touch next week and let me know if I'm successful or not. And I went home and I said, well, that was crap. I said, there's no chance I've got that job. Within 10 minutes, my phone was ringing. I said, oh, we're really impressed with your background and your attitude, and we'd like you to start next week. Oh my God, that's amazing. And there I was down in Andover a week later on the welfare officers course, having my induction. And as I say, it was either the therapy, the medication, or getting that job that saved me. And I think it was the job, if I'm completely honest.
Giving you a sense of purpose.
Yeah. Back in that military environment, doing something I knew what I was doing. It was familiar. It was a very good job to have. And I was on cloud nine. I really was. And I was basically the welfare officer for Hereford. There was a couple of others that changed over. I was part-time to start with, then soon became full-time. Then COVID pandemic hit, and our job changed a bit. I was part of the management group for the local veteran support centre. I had various links with various people in the city. I won an outstanding contribution award for operational excellence within COVID-19 pandemic for the county. But above all, it was a bloody good job, and I loved every minute of it. It had me back in that, like you say, the sense of purpose. And unfortunately, I was then made redundant after 5 years, so I was back to square one.
Bloody hell. Yeah, and how did that make you feel? Did all of them old feelings come back, or were you in a better place?
No, I think because I'd gone full circle really, from working at RCDM Birmingham, which I think these were my meltdowns that I had at the telecoms and the recruiting job. I think that was all from what had happened at the hospital jobs. So I'd gone full circle with my own eye condition as well. I've obviously had bouts of. I was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and adjustment disorder. Obviously, the job had helped me, but during that whole time, I'd been part of the Invictus Games Foundation. Not done the Invictus Games, but done the trials. I'd been on an Arctic expedition with the Endeavour Fund, which was just unbelievable. I've done part of a Walking with the Wounded expedition that was supposed to go to Oman, but due to COVID, it was Wales and England, which is a little bit different. But
I was going to say,
still part of the team.
Very different.
But again, it comes back to my ankle again. I went on my ankle, so that expedition, I wasn't part of the team. I was the support team. As it turned out, I was the support team because the actual support team all went down with COVID on day one, which wasn't ideal. I'd gone and done the Battleback ski sort of rehab, if you like. I'd never skied before, and they decided that skiing would be really good as a therapy, which some of the best times of my life was skiing. It's unbelievable. Didn't know what I'd missed. And then went on, joined the Armed Forces Para Snow Sport team and managed to win a gold medal in Maribel for alpine skiing, which was just insane. How far I'd gone from rock bottom to just being, doing all these sort of amazing things. It's incredible. And then there's Mission Motorsport that have helped me a lot as well. As I said at the beginning, I'm a car nut and just love all things motorsport. And I've just had some of the most amazing times with some incredible people. And a lot of the people, as it turns out, certainly at Invictus, are the same people that I was supporting their families when they came back from Afghanistan. And that was just mind-blowing. Just, it took me quite a while to process that, to be honest.
I'd imagine it would, yeah.
So
I've read something about you, about a blindfold.
Yes. So I set a Guinness...
So before I kick it out with this cat in a minute. Get out. No? Don't tell me no. Get out. I think she's hungry. Yeah, so on the blindfold.
Yeah.
Which I think's amazing, by the way.
Well, it started because I'm classed... I've got a visual impairment. I'm not blind by any stretch because, like I've said, I can drive. But I've got a visual impairment. So when we were skiing, we decided, if I can't qualify as anyone for the Paralympics because I'm not blind enough. Simple as that. So put a blindfold on and do it properly with a guide just to get used to it how it is. And I had this audacious idea of breaking a Guinness World Record have been. It comes back to running. I mean, when you think back to this lad who joined the military and failed his BPFA, I wanted to be the fastest man on the planet to run a mile with a blindfold on. So I went on Guinness World Records, had a look. Well, okay, let's go for it. Let's do it. So off I went. And the person that was training me, she's now a very good friend. She used to run a running club in Hereford called Ghost Runners. She wonderful, wonderful lady. She'd do anything for anybody. And she comes from a military family as well. I'll give her a shout out, Nikki Tyler. Forever grateful for what she does for the community. But for me, for this run, she said, "Yeah, I'll be your guide. I'll run behind you and shout all sorts of expletives at you. So, well, that's all I need. Keep me on the straight and narrow. I'll need 2 other runners with phones to record the whole thing. I'll need a affiliated timekeeper." She said, "Oh yeah, we've got people in the club that can do all that." So it turns up. I think 5 o'clock. I had my a chicken roast dinner, and it turned up at 7 o'clock to do this run. Completely we'd had one training session, and she said, "Right, are you ready?" I said, "Well, I can't run fast because I've got a blindfold on. So I'm just going to go as fast as I possibly can. But you've just got to scream at me, because if I go outside that white line, it's void, and it's cost money to do it."
So was this on a track?
Yeah, on a track, yeah. It was a lot easier to do on a track for the filming purposes.
I was going to say,
measurements.
just like running down the street. I mean, imagine with a blindfold on, you're going to lose your balance as well.
Yes, yeah. And I say I only had one training session. It was only one training session with a blindfold. All the other training sessions were, that I could see. So, I did train for about 6 months. I was going to the running club. And I joined the local triathlon club. I'd done a couple of triathlons and things before as well. And various other. I had this new lease of life once I'd been diagnosed with all these stupid events. I did a 24-hour mountain bike endurance race as well, with 4 times actually. You just think, well, what am I doing that? But again, it's to prove a point and to prove that you've got something about you. So I had this one training session with a blindfold on. I thought, yeah, it'd be all right, it'd be fine. I wanted to do it in under 10 minutes if possible. And for whatever reason, it was 10 minutes and 11 seconds, I think it was. Which at the time was a Guinness World Record, and I was the fastest man on the planet with a blindfold over 1 mile.
I mean, that's, I think it's brilliant.
Yes.
I honestly think it's brilliant.
It's great. It has been broken now. It's been broken now.
Do you not fancy trying to do it again?
I don't think I'll be able to with my ankles. The problem is, and it's the same with any world record that's set anywhere. I had a story to tell with mine. I've got a visual impairment. It's a visually impaired world record. But there's nothing stopping Usain Bolt putting on a blindfold and breaking that record. Yeah. So it really takes away the story. So the person that broke out, I don't know who they are. I don't know if they've got any visual impairment. The write-up they've got, I don't think states it. But they nearly halved my time, I think. I think it was 6 minutes something. Which, in all the will in the world, I'm not going to do that. I'm 42 years old and I'm carrying a little bit extra timber and I've got glass ankles, as we've alluded to. So I've got plans of things in place that will be next to bring me up back onto the stage of the reason I do it is because this condition is classed as a rare disease, keratoconus.
Yeah,
and there's not many of us with it.
I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it.
No, and not many people have that I speak to, which is why I do things to try and promote it, raise awareness, and prove a point that actually, if you are diagnosed with it, nothing can stop you. You're probably not going to join the military. You're not going to be a pilot. But you can live a decent life with it and you can do most things. So I joined all these social media self-help groups and, I was sharing my story of going to the Arctic and doing this Guinness World Record and doing triathlons and various other things. And someone said, well, why don't you write all your stories down and publish a book? I thought, well, yeah, why not? So I wrote a book and self-published it. I think it was 2020. It was 2020 or 2021, maybe. I thought, if I sell 10 or 20 books, I'll give the money to charity and it'll inspire a couple of youngsters who've got the condition, that they can push on with things. I've sold probably 700 copies now. And I'm just astounded by it. People buy my book. Just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Imagine, yeah. I just overwhelmed by the whole thing that, people want to read about me, my story of having this, let's face it, a shitty disease that causes all sorts of complications and stops you from doing things you want to do. But, yeah. So I was taken on as an ambassador for Fight for Sight, the eye research charity, good few years ago now. So all the money went to that charity from the book. So yeah.
So is it this journey that got you to the Men Walking and Talking then?
I think that Men Walking and Talking came about from a friend of my brother and my dad. So it launched in 2021, and I'd never heard of it until I was approached by one of the directors, a guy called Mark, who used to work with my dad and my brother years and years ago. So I've known about Mark for probably 15 years, and I'd never met him at this point. And this was it was only a year and a half ago when he approached me and said, "Look, I've seen what you've been doing. You're doing all this stuff for mental health. Why don't you set up a walk in Hereford for men's mental health?" And I said, well, in principle, yes, I'd love to. But at the time, so the job after DMWS was I worked at the local hospice as part of the events team. And I was there for about a year. It was a brilliant job, lovely people, but just not practical for family life with my wife and two young children. And it just didn't work out, unfortunately. Later in life, that job would just be perfect for me. So I was in the process of leaving that job and starting a job within a mental health charity within the NHS. And it's sort of a conflict of interest doing a men's mental health charity on the side of working in mental health in Hereford. So as it turned out, anyway, the job I'm in now is in Worcester. So the charity work in Hereford is fine. So I sort of had a conversation. I said, yeah, what's it all about? So Men Walking and Talking was set up by a guy called Dan Reed, who had his own mental health issues and decided the best thing that he could do is go for a walk. Really enjoyed it, found it really beneficial, and thought, actually, why don't I invite other men to come along as a safe space, try and break the stigma of men's mental health, give it an outlet and an excuse to get out and do some physical exercise. So I said, well, yeah, okay, let's go for that. I'll set one up in Hereford, and started doing all the publications, getting everything sorted. And before I'd even set my walk up, they invited me to go on board as a director, which I'm hugely privileged to be. And words can't describe how awesome this organisation is. And I would urge everybody out there to have a look at the website or social media.
I'll put all the links at the bottom of this as when it goes out. So
thank you.
Towards it.
We've also, jumping a bit ahead here, we've also got a book coming out, hopefully before Christmas, but we'll see. We're working on a few things first. So all the leaders and members and various supporters are sharing their story in this publication that I'm putting together. And again, it will raise awareness of men's mental health, break the stigma, and raise money for the. We're a CIC at the moment, but hoping to get charitable status in the new year. So, it's doing good things, and it is getting big. It's doubled in size since I started. and like I say, it's not even 2 years that I've been involved yet.
Yeah.
So went on board as a director, set up my walk in Hereford, got links with the local football team in Hereford as well. So we start our walk from there every Wednesday, 7:00. Turned up for the first month. Every week, turned up, nobody there. It gets shared everywhere. It's on the radio. It's everywhere you could imagine. And nobody turned up. I was there on my own. So post a picture. I'm here. Anyone fancies coming? Probably it was a good month or two when somebody turned up, and he's been ever since. Actually, I like to call him my deputy now. Really nice guy. He started coming along, sharing it with his friends. One of his friends came. Another couple of people came. A few people off social media turned up. So there was probably between 7 and 10 that were coming up every week up until the first anniversary. So I decided then, well, actually, we're going to see what we could do to get more people. So I went to the local council and put in for a funding application to pay for dinner for everybody. Put it as a big celebration event and doubled the numbers in 1 week, which was brilliant. So we all went for a meal after our walk, and then we get a steady stream now of, I'd say, between 8 and 12, depending on the weather and everything else.
Yeah.
But if one person turns up, it's still all it needs, because if it helps that one person, it's beneficial. If nobody turns up and I do that walk myself, it's beneficial for me. If 25 people turn up, like they're doing in certain other areas, that's amazing as well. And part of my sort of involvement, I'm very much a family man. And as a family, we go out walking, like I say, we're here, there and everywhere at weekends. I put on a family walk, and there'll be another one coming up in the new year to get, yes, the men that are involved, but their families, friends, parents, dogs, cats, I don't know, iguanas, whatever else they want to bring along. For a walk for anybody. And we went up Cardiff Mill Valley on the Longmynd, and then ended up with a wild swim as well, and picnic and what have you. Yeah, we were blessed with the weather, so it does always help when it's like that. And there's, I think there's 40 people there on that particular one. We've done intergroup walks, we do night walks. Myself and Mark, well, I shouldn't take the glory on that one because I injured my ankle again. Mark took over and did a walk over the Malvern Hills recently that was on behalf of Mountain Rescue, that we're raising money for a social media group called Adventure Buddies. So, because we've done walk leader training, got liability insurance and everything else that's obviously needed for this sort of environment. We like to support different groups as well. There's the Cameron Grant Foundation in I can't think where they are now. Near Kenilworth, anyway. I can't think where are they? That's completely gone. Anyway, they're near Birmingham Airport. A wonderful organisation that do a night walk every year as well, and we attended last year as just participants because we wanted to do a night walk. We got to know them really, really well, and this year we offered our services as part of the marshalling team and the safety team as well. So unfortunately, I couldn't do it because my glass ankle decided that wasn't the time. Typical, but we get involved in all sorts of charitable events and various other things that help the community.
That's brilliant. I mean, I know guys around my area. One of the guys, ex-3RH, he tries to organise a dog walk every once a month.
Yeah.
I think it is. And the guys turn up and go for a walk with them to the dogs, go for a walk on the beach and stuff like that. And you're right, it does help with your mental health. Maybe I should join them one day, but I might rock up one day. I ain't got a dog. I don't think the cat would enjoy it. But,
Yeah.
But it is. It's I remember watching a thing years ago, and it was a long time ago. You remember Trisha? It used to be like a chat show, talk show, and she went through her own mental health issues. Long before we were calling it mental health.
Yeah.
And advocating that people, it's okay to talk about it, it's okay to deal with it, and it's okay to let people know that you suffer. And she was suffering, I think it was depression. And she said then, the best thing that she could ever do was to go for a walk.
Yeah.
Whether, it's a little bit of exercise, release endorphins, or what, or just in your own mind, where it's fresh air and, just that type of thing. And it's only recently that I've started, probably going out for a walk. I've sat on the house for a long time. And I do. I wouldn't say I'm an avid. I don't go out, every week or even every month or whatever. But when I go out for a walk, I enjoy it. But it's. I want to have to start doing more of it, I think.
So the walks that we do we do the weekly walks, and like I say, there's over nearly 40 now over the country, and they're normally about 45 minutes to an hour at very low level. The summer will go a bit longer because the weather's better, but you don't have to talk about your mental health, and that's the biggest thing I want to stress, is that you don't have to turn up and say, "Hi, I'm Ash, and I suffer with anxiety, depression, adjustment disorder." I'll turn up and go, "Hi, I'm Ash. I'm a Newcastle fan." I not that we talk politics too much, but some of the guys want to talk politics time to time. There's quite a rural community, so there's a lot of farming talk goes on. What's the best?
Imagine at the moment, yeah.
What's the best local beer to drink? And just all sorts of conversation that just comes out of it. And the biggest thing is there's great friendships come out of it. And if anybody does purchase the book or look on our Facebook page, you'll see some of the testimonials from some of the people on the groups, and it's just wonderful. It really is. It changes lives and it saves lives, without a doubt. Well,
Ash, I think we've come to the end of it now. I can't actually see how long we've been on, but it's nearly 2 hours. About that. Again, thanks for coming on and sharing your story and talking about the charities that you've worked for and the Men Walking and Talking. As I said, we'll put all the links when I post this on social media. We'll post the links in there.
Thank you.
Put clips on TikTok and stuff like that. Try and get the word out there for the organisation, because it does sound as though there's plenty of organisations out there, and I wouldn't say we're flooded. Even though there's, I'm discovering more and more and more of these, like your little club type of thing that's called. There's many of them out there, but they don't get the recognition. They don't get, like I say, I've never heard of yours. That type of thing, and it's not the only one. I'm finding other ones.
There'll be hundreds out there.
I've never heard about these things, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at trying to get an interview with some people from another organisation that's quite local to me. Well, I didn't even know they existed. It was only because I'd clocked them on social media or LinkedIn or something like that. I found it, and I think along with me, to get my podcasts out, it's about people talking to veterans and stuff like that. But I also want to highlight what's out there for people, and these come out as not as normal episodes. I'll probably slip them in between other episodes. So, they're not the normal run of the mill stories that I tell. Or I tell. I listen to. I don't tell any stories. Just about mine, and everyone's there about mine already. So, I must learn to shut up a bit more.
No, not at all. It's going to be conversation based.
So I'd like to, again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
I've enjoyed listening to you talking, and we'll say good night there then.
Thank you. And I apologise for my monotone Brummie accent.
No. They have to listen to my dulcet tones. They're coming out worse than that. Can't listen to my own voice. Right, I'll end the recording there and we'll chat after this. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. I enjoyed recording it. If you could just hit the like button, and also if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell, that'd be great, because it'll help the channel grow. The more people will see it, the bigger it'll get, and the more guests I can get on, and the more people I can talk to. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully we'll be out next week as normal. Bye-bye now.